Hey everyone, Eric here. Welcome. Look, today we're going to talk about something that's going to completely flip the script on how you handle interviews. And you know what? Not just interviews, performance reviews, big negotiations, basically any conversation that really matters. We're going to crack the code on the people sitting right across from you.
Okay, let me tell you a story. This was way back, early in my career. I had an interview for what I thought was my dream job. I spent a whole month prepping. I had my achievements down cold, my strengths, my 5-year plan. I thought I was invincible. And then I walk in. The interviewer, this super serious guy, he just ignores everything I prepared. His first question, your resume says you organized an event for 100 people. Prove it. Walk me through every single detail. Man, I just froze. He drilled me on numbers, he questioned my data. I felt like I was on trial. Yeah, I didn't get the job. Not even close. I totally crashed and burned.
And that whole disaster? It points to this massive mistake that I think we all make. We walk into interviews thinking there's some kind of standardized test, right? Like if we just memorize all the right answers, we'll ace it. But that's not it at all. An interview isn't a test, it's a game. It's an interpersonal game happening in real time. And if you don't understand the player on the other side of the table, you've pretty much lost before you've even started.
So, how do we start winning this game? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. First, we'll talk a bit more about that interview we've all bombed. Then we're going to crack the code on the 4 key interviewer types. After that, I'm going to give you a specific playbook for each one. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing helps you way beyond just interviews. All right, let's jump in.
All right, so the 4 interviewer personas. It's all about profiling your opponent. And our guide for this, some amazing work from Anna Papalia. She's a career consultant who's talked to, get this, over 10,000 candidates. And she figured out that pretty much every interviewer fits into one of 4 main styles. And understanding which one you're facing, that's the key. That's everything. And here they are in a nutshell. You've got the charmer, who's all about feelings, the challenger, driven by power, the examiner, who just wants the facts, the evidence, and the professor, who's all about intellect. You can see right away, each one is looking for something totally different. So let's break them down.
Okay, first up, the charmer. You know this person, you walk in, they've got a huge smile, warm handshake, they're asking about your weekend. The whole vibe is super relaxed. It feels less like an interview and more like you're grabbing coffee. That's because their main driver is feeling. They trust their gut. And the only question they're really trying to answer is, do I like this person? Are they going to be cool to work with every day?
So when a charmer hits you with that classic, so tell me about yourself, please. Whatever you do, don't just start listing off your resume. That's not what they're asking. It's an invitation. They want you to tell a story, to show a bit of your personality, to connect with them on a human level.
All right, next up, the challenger. And yep, this is the guy from my story. This is the interviewer who might lean back, cross their arms, and just stare you down. Their core driver is power. They see the workplace as a tough place, and they want to know if you can handle the heat. You might be thinking, why would anyone do this? Well, think about high-pressure jobs, sales, law, that kind of thing. They need to know you won't crack when things get real. So yeah, it's basically a stress test.
And their questions are super direct. Sometimes they even feel a little confrontational. Why should we hire you? Or they'll point to your resume and say, this seems a little weak. Look, it's not personal. It is a test. They're probing to see if you'll get defensive or flustered. They want to see you stand your ground and defend your value with confidence. You back down, you fail.
Third, we've got the examiner. This interviewer is all business. They've got your resume right there, probably marked up with a pen. They are structured, they are methodical, and they're going to go through your experience line by line. Why? Because their driver is evidence. They couldn't care less about feelings or stress tests. For them, it's simple. Your past behavior is the best predictor of your future performance. End of story.
So their whole world boils down to questions like this. They want concrete proof. If you say something vague like, oh, I'm a great team player, it's going to go right over their head. It's useless to them. They will dig and dig into every single claim on your resume, asking for specifics, for data, for the exact process you used. For an examiner, the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, is the only language they speak.
And finally, we have the professor. This interviewer just has a different vibe, kind of academic. They're actually less interested in what you've done and way more interested in how you think. Their driver is intellect. They're not just hiring someone to do a job, they're hiring a brain. The question they're asking themselves is this person smart? Are they curious? Can they think on their feet?
So they're going to hit you with these big, open-ended hypothetical questions. And with a professor, you have to remember,
There is no single right answer. They really don't care about your final conclusion nearly as much as they care about the journey you take to get there. They want you to show your work. They want to see your logic, your creativity, your analytical mind in action. It's all about the mental gymnastics.
Okay, so now we know the 4 types. That's great, but how do you figure out who you're talking to when you're in the hot seat, you're nervous, and you've got to think fast? Well, there's a simple trick. The author calls it the golden 5-minute method, and you can usually nail their dominant style right at the very beginning of the conversation.
It's a really simple 3-step process. Okay, step 1, just analyze the greeting. What's the vibe in the room? Is it warm and friendly, or is it direct and kind of tense? Step 2, decode that first question. Is it about you as a person? Is it about a specific line on your resume? Or is it some big abstract idea? And finally, step 3, just check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you relaxed? Do you feel pressured? Do you feel like you're being audited or like you're in a college seminar? That gut feeling you have is a massive clue.
Right. So once you've identified who you're dealing with, you can pull out the right strategy. And listen, this isn't about being fake or inauthentic. It's about being a flexible, strategic communicator who knows how to speak the other person's language. So, here's your playbook.
For the charmer, your #1 job is to build an emotional connection. Forget the hard numbers for a second. When they ask about yourself, tell a great story that shows who you are. If you find some common ground, maybe you both love hiking or a certain type of music, lean into that. Your goal is super simple. You want them walking out of that room thinking, man, I really like that person. I'd love to work with them.
Now, with the challenger, your task is different. You need to earn their respect. The absolute key here is to stay cool. Don't get defensive. When they poke at a weakness, don't see it as an attack, see it as an opening. You can reframe their critique to actually highlight a strength. So if they say, you don't have experience in X, you can come back with, that's true. My deep experience is in Y, and that's exactly what allowed me to bring a fresh perspective and get Z result. You match their directness with calm confidence, you show them you belong.
To win over an examiner, you have to prove you're reliable, and you do that with facts. This means you got to do your homework. Before you even walk in the door, you need to go through your own resume and have a STAR method story ready for every single accomplishment. Situation, task, action, and, this is the most important part, a measurable result. Numbers, data. That is the only thing they care about. And for the professor, you got to impress them with your mind. When they throw a big, abstract question at you, the worst thing you can do is just blurt out an answer. Instead, take a beat, pause, and then talk them through your thought process. Say something like, that's a really interesting question. My initial thought is to look at it from these 3 angles. Or, okay, let's use the X framework to break this down. You're not just giving them an answer, you're inviting them to a collaborative, intellectual jam session.
Now here's what's so powerful about this whole framework. It doesn't just stop when the interview is over. This is a universal tool. It's something you can use to understand and influence people in basically any high-stakes conversation you'll ever have.
Just think about it for a second. That annual performance review with your boss, is she an examiner who needs to see the data on what you've achieved? Or a challenger who wants to see you stand up for your value? What about pitching a new project to leadership, or negotiating your salary, or even a university admissions interview? This playbook works for all of them. It gives you a serious edge. And that's really what this is all about. This knowledge changes the whole dynamic. You're no longer just this passive interviewee, nervously waiting for the next question to be thrown at you. No, you become an active, strategic communicator. You can read the room, understand your audience, and actually shape the conversation to get what you want. You are now in control.
This framework really does give you the power to walk into any important room and win. So the only real question left is, are you ready to take control of that next crucial conversation? I really hope this breakdown has given you the tools you need. If you found this helpful, do us a huge favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone you know who could use it. And hey, if there's a book you want us to tackle next, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Eric, and I'll see you in the next one.